How do you balance things in your life, Anton?
Nathan, nobody's perfect, man, and I cannot say that I'm perfect. I don't think I balance it very well at all. Especially now that you're saying we're gonna have our first on the way. We just found out that we're gonna have a boy yesterday. We had a gender reveal party. Um, that's probably one of the most difficult things that I still today struggle with, is to balance my time of work and play, and work and not work. As an entrepreneur, I think that yourself and many of your listeners can probably relate how it's so difficult to just step away and stop thinking about work. And Dan has helped a lot, and my calendar has definitely been a lot better. My EA has been executive assistant, who I love. She's definitely been helping me out in terms of helping me schedule things on the calendar. But I'll be honest, Nathan, if maybe you can give me some tips on how to balance, because you have 3 kids, I got one in the way. That's probably exactly why we said we're going to move to Colombia, because we're going to hire like a nanny right away, because I can't imagine having this work, podcasts, Dan, my real estate business, REI call center, and then the baby screaming in the other room. So yeah, man, I really can't answer that question well, other than just tell you sincerely that I do struggle with that a lot.
Welcome to the High Performance Podcast. I have Anton here today. I'm super glad to be hosting this podcast, where we're going to dive into Anton's story and life and his background, with his expertise in real estate and also building an amazing REI company here. So Anton, super pumped to have you on the call here. Let's dive in. I want to hear your definition, your insights of what you believe a high performance is. What's the definition? How do you live that out? I'll hand that question off to you on that.
By the way, I love the name, Nathan, High Performance Podcast. Love what you're doing. So thank you so much for having me on here. Yeah. High performance for me literally means being better than you were yesterday, you were 6 months ago, you were a year ago. If you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing the same person that you saw even last month, that means you're doing something wrong, and you're not pushing yourself to where you eventually would want to be. And I feel that high performance is not about effort, it's about consistency for me. It's not just doing something and then not doing it the next day. Like Dan teaches us, we're in the same group with Dan Martell. 5 daily non-negotiables. The reason why he teaches that is because for you to become a high performer, it's not about just putting in the effort one day and not the other day. It's every single day, consistency, and it builds and builds and builds. One of the last things I'll say about high performance, it's not about how much you do. It's, again, doing something every single day. This morning I had my reading session before going to the gym, and it talked about how powerful this domino effect can be. And there's a video on YouTube that you can go and check it out. But it talks about how there's 23 dominoes that were set right next, the whole domino effect. And the first domino was so small that you have to use tweezers to pick it up. The last domino was 3 feet tall, 100 pounds. And there's a video that they push this domino, and starting from the small tweezer-sized domino, you can actually knock down a 100-pound domino just by force of consistency and action, small action taken every single day. So that's what high performance means to me.
Love that, man. Well, tell the audience here, like, what you do, what you're about. Like, tell us the success that you have here with real estate. Let's hear about that.
Sure, man. Yeah, definitely. My claim to fame is that I made my $100,000 deal on my first deal, $100,000 check on my first deal. Now, it sounds all great and happy and awesome and amazing and wow, but I just want to tell you guys it was not fancy at all. It was very difficult, very scary. It meant for me to do something that I've never done before, talk to people that I've never spoken before, really put in the work, hating every single day when I was coming back from my W-2, picking up my phone and making cold calls to property owners and asking them if they're interested in selling, and them telling me, go get a real job, you don't amount to anything, stop calling me, anything and everything. And those are the nice ones. So you could hear a lot of negativity that was coming from those calls back then. And that's what I did, Nathan. I decided back then that I was going to go ahead and get into real estate. I didn't know anything about real estate. I started learning about this concept called wholesaling real estate. And the reason why that concept really intrigued me is because I thought, for any one of you listening, if you have no idea about about real estate, if you've never bought your rental, maybe you bought your primary home, but in terms of investing in real estate, it's a little bit of a different animal. So I would highly recommend that you look into wholesaling. And wholesaling is a type of process or real estate investment strategy that allows you to make money without actually putting your money into the deal. Now, it's super simple, but it's not easy. I tell everybody that. Don't think of it as get rich quick scheme or get rich overnight. It's not like that. It took me 6 months to get my first deal done. I want to say, to be honest with you, Nathan, lucky enough to make the $100,000, but you can still make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on a deal. Even though smaller amount checks add up, all because I did something that I've never done before. I saw somebody doing it. I'm going to take a step back here really quick. The reason why I got into wholesaling real estate is because I met this individual. His name is Gonzalo Corzo. And he was, at the time, the largest wholesaler in the state of, I think, Florida. He was in Jacksonville. He made $8 million in wholesale assignment fees. And I know that sounds like, whoa, $8 million in wholesale assignment fees? What is that? So just a quick overview for those of you who've never heard the concept of wholesaling. Again, it's a super simple concept. Don't overcomplicate it. You find a property that needs some repairs and needs some TLC, some love, and you put it under contract for $100,000. Then I go to Nathan. Say, Nathan, I got this amazing property, and I'm going to go ahead and sell it to you for $110,000. That $10,000 difference in between, that is your assignment fee. That was the fee that I made $100,000 on, and that's exactly what you can do. But Gonzalo was making $8 million in those. So imagine how, and traditionally there are $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 fees. At times, Gonzalo had fees that were $1,000, $500. Like, they were just piling up, and at the end of the day, he made $8 million. So that's why I got into wholesaling, because again, I picked up the phone, I called Gonzalo, I said, Gonzalo, please teach me what I have to know. He's like, look, man, I'm going to give you 1 hour of my time, 7:30 in the morning, Saturday, be there and ask me anything you want for 1 hour, and that's it. And I did. And I started, and I had that call. He said, that's what you do. This is a process. Find a property, start calling. And I literally, Nathan, for the next 6 months, would come from work, and I had one goal. One simple goal. And I talked about how you have to keep things simple. For me, I don't think that you have to go and break these crazy records. It's small steps that make the difference. One goal for me, that I'm going to make 25 calls. Actually, take that back. I'm going to speak to 25 people before I finish off. No matter if it's a no matter if it's a go to hell, no matter if it's whatever they told me, I need to hear 25 people on the other end tell me yes or no every single day. And that was it. I would come from work, 5 p.m., sit down on my computer, and start dialing. No. As soon as I got 25 no's, that's it. I'm done for the day. I go and have my juice, coffee, whatever. But at the end of the day, that was a process. It wasn't, like I think I told you before we started recording, at the time, I had a phenomenal W-2, making over $200,000 a year, being one of the top salespeople in the company, traveling the world, and getting people to tell me on the other end, go get another job. You are amount to nothing, blah, 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 blah. So that's why I think it's super important for you to go through those difficult times that do question.
You're wired a little bit different, Anton. How did this all start, though? I said you're wired a little bit different than most people. What started this drive and this grit and this tenacity about you of not only having a day job, but also wanting more? Like, bring us back to the beginning stages of, like, where all this began. Why even do that?
Love that question. I love that question. And I think right now, if I look back at it, the simple answer is fear. But let me take you back and explain what I mean. I was born in a country called Uzbekistan. Not many people know the name, but when it's a small country back when Soviet Union was still alive, that was part of Soviet Union back in 1991. Soviet Union collapses. My family sells, Nathan, get this. We had a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment that we sold for $2,000 back in 1994 and moved from Uzbekistan to Russia. And the reason is because not many people know about this, but if you were Russian and you were living in Uzbekistan, you got to get the heck out and go live in Russia. It was a lot of segregation going on. But whatever, I was young, I didn't see any of that. But I remember hearing about it from my parents and from my family. So they lost everything pretty much. With $2,000, they came to Russia and started living. We lived in Russia for about 4 years. 4 years in, somehow God, luck, however you want to call it, universe, we got an opportunity to move to the United States. We moved to the United States with $60 in our pocket. We had a lot of great people that helped us, our family, friends. So no matter what, we still had $60 in our pocket. Take a step back really quick. While living in Russia, Nathan, and I'm not saying this for anybody on this podcast to feel bad for me in any way. I just want to tell you that whatever crap you're going through. The other day I had a podcast with one of Dan's guys, and he kind of went into it, man. He went into the deep end of my journey. That's why it's so easy for me to talk about this now. But I don't usually talk about this stuff because nobody likes to talk about the negativity. They want to talk about the success, the great. But it's important to be grateful for whatever you're going through. Nathan, we were living in a room like I'm standing in right now. We had a bunk bed on one side. My father and I would sleep on top. My mother and my sister would sleep on the bottom. Across it was a couch that would fold out. And my grandma and my brother would sleep there for about 3 years of those times that we lived in Russia. Because remember, we didn't have any money. To go to the bathroom, you had to go outside in like negative 30-degree weather. Like, that was our life. Back then, I was a kid. I didn't understand. I was like, okay, cool. I mean, whatever. This is the new normal. I moved to the United States. We start living and trying to make ends meet. I used to go to construction sites with my dad. My dad came from a managerial background, working on construction sites because he didn't know the language. And back then I was like, this is great. This is exactly where we're supposed to be. And it was just more moving. And now that I look back, I remember when my family split, when my father left. Unfortunately, my father now lives in Russia. It's all good. But when my family left, I had this feeling of now I have to support my family. I don't know why, but it was there. And the fear, Nathan, the fear. Now it's easy for me to talk about. Back then I didn't really dig deep into it, but now it's the fear that I do not ever want to end up back there, because that's a reality for some people. And to be honest, even in this country, that's a reality for some people because they don't understand how much opportunity, how much you have available to you, that you can make your dreams come true. So I was the first person in my family to get an MBA. I was the first person in my family to make $100,000. I was the first person in my family to go into business and drop everything. But it's the fear of never going back there. Like we talked about, what is high performance for me? Is that every single day I want to get up. I don't know if you follow me on IG, but I go to do cold plunges. I do like crazy shit because I want to push myself every single day. Look at myself and say, you know what? Today you're better than yesterday. And that's all I want to do. So that's where it all started from. I hope I answered.
How old were you when you had that realization of like that fear and that drive when your dad left and you had to really figure this out?
Yeah, I mean, it was that adolescence, a 16-year-old kid. So yeah, 16-year-old is one, and I got married at 21. I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna make a family. I'm gonna make a name for myself. And then I think I told you in the beginning of the podcast. I don't know if you were recording or not, but I literally just, as soon as I graduated college in May, I packed up my shit and moved to Miami because I never want to be comfortable. I never want to be comfortable because I know comfort kills. And I know that if I would have stayed in Arizona, I would have done I don't know what. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go and push myself out there, move to Miami, move to the unknown. And that's what I did. And that's what I continue to do. I think I told you that I'm going to be moving to Colombia now next year. I think it's super important to do those things. Because honestly, Nathan, now that I look back at all those moves, I have friends right now that have never left Miami, that never left Arizona, they never left this country to go out there and explore. But all the moves that I've ever made, Uzbekistan to Russia, Russia to Arizona, Arizona to Miami. Now, I've always looked back and said, that was fun. That was great. That was an amazing experience. What's next?
Yeah. That's cool, man. Like trying to dive into like your roots of why that is. Like sometimes we don't even aware of it. We just kind of go through and coast through life without understanding the ups and downs or even understanding ourselves, let alone what we should be doing next, right? How much of that do you observe with your journaling and your process of just like taking in your past and then realizing your present and then also goal setting? Like what does that look like in your horizon, your process, and your thinking?
I love that. And I think that before I answer that question, I do want to say that for your listeners, you have a lot of advice out there. You have a lot of gurus out there that want to tell you something that works. But I think now that I've been with Dan in your groups for a few months before I had a lot of different coaches and mentors and masterminds. If there's one, probably the only secret to success or the only cheat code. I'm not saying it's even a secret. It's a cheat code to success. The only one is by getting yourself not only out there and doing crazy things that I've done, but also getting yourself around the people like Dan, people like Nathan, people like everybody in Dan's group who are doing so much and just really becoming the high performers that we all should be, in my opinion. And I think that's what really helped me push into, like I said, the real estate. Gonzalo pushed me because he was doing 8 million back in the day. I was like, Jesus Christ, man. And now we have Dan who's doing hundreds. I think he just said today on the call he does about 2 million a month in just one of his businesses. So I think that it's super important to get yourself surrounded by individuals that are doing what it is that you want to be doing. And the reason why I bring this up is because that question that you just asked me can seem so banal and so like, well, you know, it's this wishful thinking of setting goals, of writing down your gratitude journal every single morning. It doesn't work. Why would you do it? Guys, people that are like Dan write down their goals. People like Dan read their goals 3 times per day. Guy that probably has not a single minute in his day that's not on his calendar. One of his 5 daily non-negotiables is to read through his goals every single day 3 times. Get a workout in 45 minutes every single day. Nathan, those things are ridiculously important. The small, very mundane things. I wake up every morning, I write 3 things I'm grateful for. I read my 10 pages. I go do my 45-minute workout and do the cold plunges. I come back, I put 110% into it. I meditate, I read my goals. I think it's very, very, very much important. And the crazy thing is this, is that you not only have to do it every single day, but really believe that you can do it. And the easiest way that I can explain this is that you can set big goals, but unless you really believe in your big goals, it's pretty much just like reading a novel, reading or watching a movie. Like, you have to believe that you can accomplish those things. And whoever's listening to this, if you're doubting yourself for a second, stop, because there's so much you can do, and you'll be shocked. And one of the coolest examples that I can give is, I remember one of the years that I was part of the mastermind with Gonzalo, going back to the real estate mastermind that I was on. We had an event. Well, they had an event. I went to the event in Austin, Texas. It was like at the end of the year goal setting event, and my goal was to fly a jet. I really wanted to fly a private jet. And fly a private jet and make my first $100,000. I think those are the 2 things that I wrote down in terms of just like from one deal. So that year, Nathan, I don't know how this shit works, but I believed it. I wrote it. I said, this year I'm gonna go ahead and fly in a private jet. I've never stepped a foot in a private jet. I don't know anybody who owns a private jet. It's crazy. It's a very small example, but I knew that I wanted it very, very, very hard enough, and I really wanted to experience it, and I believe I could do it. And then out of the blue, a few months in, I think this was like May or June of the year, somebody that I haven't talked to in years calls me up. I swear. I have some pictures on my Instagram if you guys want to check it out, but it doesn't matter. I'm not here raving about what I did. All I'm raving about is that I set a goal. I believed in it. I read it every single day. If you want to go ahead and go into visualization, I do believe in visualization as well. I visualized it. I really wanted to achieve it, and then this guy calls me out of the blue. Hey, dude, I have a private jet for the weekend. Do you want to come join us and have dinner in Mexico and then come back the next day? I was in Washington, my guy. I was with I was telling you, with one of my mentors over there. I had to fly in the morning back on Saturday. I changed my flight. I flew back. Let me take a step back. This is crazy. I didn't change my flight. I said, you guys go because my now wife was here. Take my wife. I'll fly from Miami to Mexico, and then on the way back we can just fly back. Because I had a red eye. I couldn't switch it because it was the same day. And it was Friday night, and Saturday is when they were flying out. Red eye.
Wow.
Something happened with a private jet. Something happened on the runway in Mexico. They had to delay it by like 2 hours. The guy that I went with was pissed off. But it meant that I got there on time. I got there on time to take the private jet to Mexico with him and back, have dinner. It was the most incredible experience, but all because I set a goal, I believed in it, and I really wanted it to happen, and I visualized it, and it's crazy how mundane it sounds to people, especially that are not doing it. Like, this is just wishful thinking. It's not. Something is out there that allows you to achieve your goals as long as you believe in them, as long as you work hard and push yourself to it, and miracles will happen. Man.
What are your anchors? What are your ankles? What are your anchors each day that you set to review your goals? You do it in the morning, at lunch, at dinner. Like, help us understand how.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, to be honest with you, I have a hack.
Yeah,
it's not really a hack. I mean, of course, in the morning is super. It's one of those things like I don't even like to use my phone in the morning. I write my gratitude journal, and all my goals are in my phone. But I actually, whenever I start my workout, the first 5-7 minutes, I just get on the treadmill, put my phone in front of me, and just read through my goals. That's my first time. The second time is right after lunch, right after I finish eating. I'm still sitting at the table, full. The food is like, I read through my goals. And finally, the third time, it's another hack. That is, it's not a hack. I don't know why I call it a hack. It just works for me. Whatever works for you. But I like to do like yoga stretching before bed. I do about 10-15 minutes of yoga stretching before bed. I feel like I sleep a lot better. I feel like I'm way more energized. I fall asleep a lot faster. And right before the yoga, right before bed, I read them, do my yoga, go to bed, pass out. That's how I made it work.
Yeah. Do you rewrite these each year? Or when do you kind of like anchor in? Do you do it quarterly? How do you get away? How do you plan these? Do you create it into an I am statements? Like, help us understand your role with that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Absolutely. In terms of my 25-year goals, I have this jet that I have on my table here, right? I'm going to own a jet one day in 25 years. Is it going to be next year? No. But I am going to get a Gulfstream G650R just like this one. I see it every single day while I'm working, and that's my 25-year goal. So I do have very, very long-term goals. I have here written down that I'm going to have a $1.7 billion exit one day. That's like 25, 30 years from now. Those are the goals that you kind of want to have in front of you, the big ones. But then every single year, my wife and I started doing this. Actually, this is our first year. I'm not going to say that we've done it many years before then, but this was my first year where I actually sat down with my wife, first, second, or third of January, and we sat down and we said, okay, what do we want to accomplish? I use a journal. The journal that I use is called Rich Habits, and that's a very, very, very good journal in terms of writing your yearly goals. And after I wrote my yearly goals, then I put them on my phone and I started breaking them down into quarterly goals. And one of the things that I also learned from Dan recently is that book, A Happy Pocket Full of Money. If you've never read it, it's an interesting concept, and Dan mentioned it a couple of times. It's definitely not the easiest book to read, but the biggest takeaway that I got from my book is that whenever you're setting these goals, you almost have to not almost after every single goal you say today. Like one of my goals this year, and yearly goals, right? I'm not gonna say I own a private jet today, but like for example, I want to get to 10% body fat. I'm at 16% body fat. So one of my health goals is I am at 10% body fat today. My REI call center, my business, I want to get to $5 million in revenue this year. We have hit $5 million in revenue with REI call center today. Blah, blah, blah. All those goals, because again, that kind of puts in your mindset of I have done it already and it has already happened. It's a weird thing about, again, visualization, but it definitely helps you believe.
Yeah. How do you balance things in your life, Anton? Like, you're about to have a little baby. You've been with your loved one, your partner, for a very long time. How do you balance the busyness as a high performer, your goals that you always are stretching and pushing yourself to do? You have time for yourself, your spouse. Like, how do you balance all this, man?
Nathan, nobody's perfect, man, and I cannot say that I'm perfect. I don't think I balanced it very well at all. Especially now that you're saying we're gonna have our first on the way. We just found out that we're gonna have a boy yesterday. We had a gender reveal party. That's probably one of the most difficult things that I still today struggle with, is to balance my time of work and play, and work and not work. Because as an entrepreneur, I think that yourself and many of your listeners can probably relate how it's so difficult to just step away and stop thinking about work. And Dan has helped a lot, and my calendar has definitely been a lot better. My EA has been executive assistant, who I love. She's definitely been helping me out in terms of helping me schedule things on the calendar. But I'll be honest, Nathan, if maybe you can give me some tips on how to balance, because you have 3 kids, I got one in the way. that's probably exactly why we said we're going to move to Colombia, because we're going to hire like a nanny right away, because I'm like, I can't imagine having this work, podcasts, Dan, my real estate business, REI call center, and then the baby screaming in the other room. So yeah, man, I really can't answer that question well, other than just tell you sincerely that I do struggle with that.
Yeah,
a lot.
There's not really a whole lot of time balance. I think it's a joke. I think people are trying to do something and someone created that definition, but really it's just trying to define the ideal week and year in life. And one of my mentors, which as a high performer, that is really interesting, I'd love to hear your take on this, is you have your ideal week, right, and year that you planned for your business, for your life, but trying to also craft an ideal week and year for not only helping you with your spouse, but also being intentional with your kids, right? And what their ideal life is, an ideal week, an ideal scenario based off of their schedules. How do you blend all of that into your life? And so you have a partner. How do you work with her to have that ideal? Because you also travel a lot and you love doing that. So there's some components of goals and achieving those sort of things, but there's also like the relief of enjoying your life and doing some fun stuff. It sounds like just this last year, you guys had a conversation with like, hey, you're doing your thing, I'm doing it. Let's put it all together. Let's have this ideal plan. I learned that by just realizing I was planning all this stuff, and my wife started getting jealous because I was doing some fun stuff and traveling. She's like, when do I get a break? You're like, you know what, you're right. We need to also, what do you want to do? What conferences what do you want to go? What do you want to accomplish? And so those were conversations out of being stupid that made it where we had to have more realistic conversation with that. But how did you end up finding or doing that or bridging that gap?
Yeah, I will say, Nathan, it's so important. I think it's one of the most important things that's going to define your success long term. I think it's so important to have a partner in your life that will not only support you and be there for you, but will be just like your number one cheerleader, no matter, because there's so many times a day where I just finish with work, it's 9 p.m., my head is blowing up, and I'm like, today was insane. And then she would come and she would just like talk to me. So I think this is huge. I was married before, and I jumped into a relationship that I knew that we didn't really align, but I tried to make it work. Thank God I didn't have kids, because that's going to be one of the most, for me, when my father left, that was huge, because it affects the kids a lot more than it does the parents, I think. But I was lucky enough not to have kids. We were lucky enough to understand that we're not the right fit for each other. And afterwards, we decided to go our separate ways. And then for about a year, and going back to this whole visualization and writing goals, and for about a year, I didn't have anybody. And then I wrote it, and I'll never forget. I wrote it in my journal. It's like I'm living with a person who loves me tremendously, who I love, and we're building something great together. And now we've been together for the last 8.5 years, and I just can't tell you how grateful I am. She was the one that really pushed me to go into real estate, go into the impossible, the step of quitting my job and focusing on REI call center 110%, going all in, like Dan says. She knew that I was making crazy money. We're living an amazing life, traveling the world. I would take her, by the way. She would come to a lot of trips. That was one of her things that, hey, you have to take me. But even when I took her, she was in her own thing. She was always supporting me, and I am tremendously lucky, and I thank God every day that I have somebody like that in my life to have a podcast right now. It's already 7:20 p.m. here in Miami, and she knows that I'm doing my thing. She knows that whatever I'm doing right now is for a reason. It's for it's not just me spending time. So it's super important. It's probably, one of my mentors did say that this is going to be one of the most important decisions you're going to have to make in your life, is finding your partner who's going to not bring you down, not pull you down with their small-minded thinking or wanting to spend all the money and do all these crazy things, but just lift you up. And every single day she lifts me up, and I'm just beyond grateful. And I can't say that I do anything other than just give love back to her as much as I can, but I'm super grateful to have her in my life.
That's amazing, man. What would you think are some key principles that you can share, because we have, new entrepreneurs here on the call, and then also people that are just like well-known entrepreneurs, but they just love listening to this because they love hearing your story and motivation with things. What are principles or habits or things that that have helped you become that success that you are right now? And what are those things that you can maybe, share our audience here with?
Sure. Love that question, man. Thank you for asking that. Number one, I think is it's super important for you to understand to not try to do this on your own. It's super, I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs make is how they try to do this on their own. Dan always teaches us how we need to get our first executive assistant. Right now I have almost close to 300 employees at REI Call Center helping investors find deals, but I didn't do this on your own, and you shouldn't either, and you shouldn't be expected to succeed. So if you're out there listening to this and maybe something's not working out, or maybe you feel overwhelmed, or there's too much going on, you really need to take a step back. One of my most favorite quotes that my mentor used to tell me a lot when I started REI is that for a CEO to be born, the hustler must die. And when he told me that for the first time, I didn't understand it. What do you mean the hustler must die? We're hustlers. We have to be working. We have to be pushing. We have to be doing as much as we can. And although that is true to a point of where being part of the CEO, but you have to have people on your team that help you accomplish this. I have directors of operations. I have finance. I have marketing. I have, like I said, close to 300 people. Just it's insane how you can let them run the business, and I can focus on things like this and focus on growing other sides of the business. Like right now, we're going into more operational type of roles as well. So it's definitely going to be interesting how this all evolves. But definitely don't try to do this on your own. Get somebody to help you. Maybe a business partner. Definitely don't get somebody who has the same strengths that you do. Find somebody who has completely different view on things and start working with that person, because I promise you it's going to give you a lot better than somebody who just agrees with everything you say. Then the second thing is be brave enough to dream big. Like, I'm not afraid to tell anybody that I will own this freaking jet. And people some look at me and say, man, that's crazy. Why would you ever want a jet? That's a crazy amount of money. Do you know how much it's going to cost you to maintain? I don't care about all that. I really, 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 really don't, because I know that I know for somehow, some way I will achieve it. I don't know how. So dream big, dream much bigger than what you think you can do, because I promise you it's gonna be different. And then the third thing, of course, it's step outside your comfort zone. Start creating problems. Start eating that, the shit. I'm sorry to say, like. It's one of my favorite books is Anti-Fragile. I don't know if you've ever heard the concept of anti-fragility, but it's basically what it is how you have a fragile object that whenever a force hits it, it breaks into hundreds of little pieces, and then it just gets damaged. But anti-fragile is something that no matter, the more you put force on it, the tougher it gets. The more you go through shit, the tougher it gets. So even now, Nathan, in 4 years, I've been able to build a company that's going to do $5 million this year. It's crazy to look back and say, holy shit, I built that. But even now, I'm like, no, what's next? What do we need to do to get a 10 million? And it's going to take a lot of shit that I'm going to have to eat and go through, become anti-fragile myself to go through those things. But I know I'm going to have the team. I know I'm going to have the goals and visions and beliefs that I can make it happen. And I know that I'm willing to go through it. Don't be afraid of going through. Unfortunately, it's really hard for me to come up with a better word than going through shit for a really long time until you succeed and become a better version of yourself.
Love that, man. Well, I appreciate you being on the call with us today. One last question before we part. What are some things that you do? What's your everyday carry? You leave home, what do you grab? Is there anything unique or things that you have or you use, or you have your everyday carry that you take with you on the road or do something?
That's an interesting question. I've never had anybody ask me that. Not really, man. I honestly,
What's your necklace? Tell me about your necklace. Would you got anything special there?
Yeah. This is something that I got when I was 15 years old by my parents. My parents gave this to me before they separated, like a year before. I'm never taking it off. I'm a Russian Orthodox like Christian, I guess you can call it. So I never take it off. I do believe in God. I do pray. I do have icons on my table because of my beliefs. I think that is super important to have that belief. And yeah, my necklace is always with me. I never take it off. It's actually kind of weird when you take it off. It feels weird just because I've been on my neck for such a long time. It feels like something's missing. So yeah, man. Other than that, is just that I try to bring positivity anywhere I go. I think being an optimist and looking through the world with a pink glasses is a lot better than going through the world and complaining and looking at all the negativity. I try to be grateful. I do my meditations. I do my workouts, cold plunges. Those things I think are more important. I think it's the discipline that I bring. One of the things that I love to do is I like to do the cold plunge before I work out. It is beneficial for you a lot better to do it before. But for me, the most important part is that discipline of like, you just woke up, you barely had your coffee, and you're looking at that freaking cold ass water, and you're like, I gotta get in there for the next 5 minutes. And you know what? Fuck it, just do it, and you jump in. And after that, you feel like you can conquer the freaking day, and anything is possible. So yeah, it's just my attitude, I would say, more than anything.
Dude, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk with you and all your insights about how you build stuff. How can the audience here follow you or connect with you further?
Love it, man. Yeah. So please reach out to me on Anton Zrei. I'm super open. I'm an open book. I love to help other investors. Like I said, REI, I have helped hundreds of investors find off-market deals just like I had just by hiring and training professional cold callers. REI Call Center is our website if you guys want to check that out. But definitely reach out to me on Instagram. That's the most, the easiest way to get a hold of me, Anton Zrei. And whatever you do, just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call the Gonzalo. Now I feel like I'm the Gonzalo in the room that can help somebody achieve their goals, and I would be more than happy to do so. So definitely encourage your listeners to do so.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys for listening in. Until next time, we will see you